I had been planning the family reunion for weeks. It wasn't even anyone else's idea, just mine. I thought maybe if we all sat together again, laughed over old stories, shared a meal like the old days, maybe we'd feel like a family again. I wanted to surprise them, so I didn't tell anyone the full plan. I booked a beautiful little restaurant with a garden view, just outside the city. Paid the deposit with my own savings. Even got little customized gift bags made, one for each family member with their favorite things inside. It was all supposed to be my gift to them. A moment to feel like we still mattered to each other. I thought they'd love it. I have always been the responsible one. The quiet one. The one who never asks for much. When things went wrong, I was the fixer. When someone needed something, I was always the first to offer help. I wasn't flashy like my sister or charming like my cousins, but I was reliable. I thought that meant something. That morning, I got dressed in my nicest dress. Not over the top, just clean and decent. I checked everything twice. Venue was ready, table was set, the manager called me to confirm, and I was smiling the whole way there. I had imagined them all walking in, surprised, hugging each other and saying, "This was such a great idea." I even imagined Mom hugging me and saying she was proud of me. When I reached the venue, I was the first one there, which made sense since I was hosting. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The food started getting cold. The drink sat untouched. Kept checking my phone. No messages. No calls. I called Mom's phone. She picked up on the second ring, sounding casual like nothing was wrong. "Hey," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Where are you guys? Everyone okay?" She laughed. Actually laughed. And then said, "Oh, we canceled that. Didn't your sister tell you?" My smile vanished instantly. "Canceled? What? Why?" "Yeah, we decided yesterday," she replied casually. "Your sister had plans with her boyfriend today. She really wanted to go out. So we thought, let's just skip the whole reunion thing." I stood there, completely frozen. People at the restaurant were walking around me, but I couldn't move. I could feel my chest tighten, not out of anger, at least not yet, but out of this deep, hollow sadness I couldn't describe. I had spent my money, my time, my energy, all of it for them. And they didn't even think it was worth a phone call. "I spent so much on this," I whispered into the phone. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she chuckled. "It's not a big deal. Your sister doesn't get a lot of free days, and this date was important. We thought you'd understand." Understand? I did understand. I understood exactly where I stood in their list of priorities. At the very bottom. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just ended the call, picked up the gift bags, and quietly walked out of the venue with my head down. I felt stupid. Not just betrayed, but humiliated. Like a kid waiting at her own birthday party that no one showed up for. Only this time it was my own family who decided I didn't matter enough. I reached home just before sunset. I remember unlocking the door slowly, like I didn't want to face what was waiting inside. I was hoping maybe someone would notice I was upset. Maybe Mom would look at my face and feel some guilt. Maybe my sister would apologize or even just acknowledge what she did. But as I stepped inside, the house was full of laughter. Loud, carefree laughter. My sister was in the living room, sitting on the couch like a queen, scrolling through pictures on her phone and showing them to my mom. They were both laughing like everything was perfect. Like today had been nothing but beautiful. She had on a new dress I hadn't seen before, a designer bag resting beside her, and her nails freshly done. Her hair was curled. She looked like she just came back from a luxury vacation. I tried to go straight to my room, but I paused in the hallway when I heard her say, "He booked us a boat ride. Can you believe that? Then we had sushi, like real sushi, not the cheap stuff. I even got this necklace. Look at it, it sparkles under the light." My mom laughed and said, "He's really spoiling you. That's how a man should treat his girl." I couldn't stop myself. I walked in slowly and asked, "Who paid for all that?" My sister looked at me with this annoying smile, the kind people wear when they know something you don't. "Well," she said, "he surprised me with the plan, but Mom helped with a few things. I mean, it's not like I asked for it. She just wanted me to have a good day." Mom looked at me and shrugged. "We used the reunion money. It's not like it was being used anymore. No point in letting it go to waste." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just stared at them. "So, you used the money I saved for her date?" My sister laughed like I was being ridiculous. "Don't be so bitter. It was just a date. You act like we stole your life savings." And then Mom added the final punch to my already bleeding heart. She deserves it more than you anyway. You're always single, always working. At least she knows how to enjoy life. You're so boring, Beta. Lighten up. That moment broke something inside me. Not because of the money. Money comes and goes. But the fact that my own mother saw me as some leftover human. As if my only value was to provide for others quietly without asking for anything in return. I stood there, numb, watching them celebrate my humiliation. That's when it hit me, I was just a backup in my own family. The quiet filler in the background while my sister shined under the spotlight. And no one, not even once, thought that maybe I deserved something too. After that day, something inside me shut off. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, not in front of them. I just went silent. I still lived under the same roof, but it was like I was invisible now. I stopped joining them for dinner. I stopped asking how their day was. I started locking my door at night, not out of fear but to create a space that was mine, where no one could reach me or drain me anymore. At first they noticed. My mom asked once, "Why are you acting like a stranger?" But I didn't respond. My sister laughed and said, "Oh, she's just being dramatic again." But I wasn't being dramatic. I was just done. Every morning I woke up early, made my own breakfast, packed my own lunch and left for work without saying a word. I ate my meals alone in my room and started spending more time in silence. That silence wasn't cold anymore. It became my comfort. Without their voices constantly around me, I started hearing my own thoughts again. I realized how much I had ignored myself all these years. How much I had molded myself into the person they expected me to be, reliable, quiet, and available without asking what I wanted. And I started healing. Slowly, but it was happening. I focused more on my job and less on their opinions. I started journaling. I stopped checking their moods before planning my day. I started putting myself first little by little. But I also knew this silence wasn't enough. I couldn't keep living like a guest in my own life. I needed out. So I began applying for jobs in other cities, faraway cities. I stayed up late scrolling through listings, fixing my resume, writing cover letters. I didn't tell anyone. In my heart, I was already gone. I was building a new version of myself, piece by piece, and they weren't going to be a part of that version. Not anymore. They had lost that place in my life the day they told me I didn't deserve what my sister did. Now it was just a matter of time. I got the offer letter on a Thursday afternoon. It was for a mid-level marketing position in a city 5 hours away. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough to survive and, most importantly, it was mine. No family connections, no favors, just my qualifications and my determination. When I read the email, I sat still for a moment, letting it sink in. Then, without hesitation, I accepted it. I was finally going to leave. I told my family 2 days before the move. Mom barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, okay," she said flatly. "So you're really going?" My sister rolled her eyes. "Well, don't expect a goodbye party or anything." I didn't. And I didn't get one either. The morning I left, I carried my own bags out the door. No one helped. No one even stood at the gate. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. The new city was loud, unfamiliar, and overwhelming. I didn't know anyone. My apartment was tiny, just a one-room space with thin walls and old flooring. But it was mine. I used to come home, cook a quick meal, and sit on the floor with my laptop, applying every ounce of focus I had into my work. I was determined to prove to myself that I could do this. I started saving every penny. I stopped buying unnecessary things. I learned how to manage my finances, how to negotiate at work, and how to stay calm under pressure. And slowly it started paying off. Within the first year, I got my first promotion. Then came another one 6 months later. My manager told me, "You're sharp, you take things seriously, and you don't give up." That one sentence meant more to me than anything my family had ever said. Being away from them gave me something I never expected: clarity. Without the constant comparison, the guilt trips, the comments about being boring or invisible, I started seeing myself differently. I wasn't boring, I was focused. I wasn't invisible, I was strong. All those years they made me feel like the backup plan, but out here I was building a future on my own. I would lie awake sometimes and dream, not just of doing well but of doing something bigger. Owning something. Creating something that couldn't be taken away or ignored. Maybe a business, maybe my own agency. The idea started as just a whisper, but each day as I earned a little more respect and saved a little more money, the whisper got louder. I didn't know exactly how or when, but I promised myself one thing. I was never going to go back to being that girl who sat alone in a restaurant waiting for a family that never showed up. That version of me was gone. This was my path now. Took a few years, a few failures, and a lot of sleepless nights, but eventually things started falling into place. After working in corporate for almost 5 years, I partnered with 2 colleagues and co-founded a startup focused on brand strategy and digital storytelling. At first, it was just the 3 of us working from a rented office space above a coffee shop. But we worked hard, made smart moves, and soon enough our client list began to grow. Within 2 years we were hiring full-time staff, signing big deals, and earning recognition in the industry. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was leading. People came to me for answers, for approval, for decisions. I was the one building something real, something that couldn't be stolen or dismissed. For the first time in my life I felt seen. And I never forgot the journey it took to get here. One quiet Monday morning, I was going through the list of new applicants from a small design firm we had recently acquired. As part of our expansion, we were offering interviews to their current employees and external applicants who had applied for upcoming roles. I was halfway through my coffee, just scanning through the usual resumes, when a familiar name made my hand freeze. I blinked and stared. Oh, it couldn't be. But there it was, her full name, her photo, her email. My sister. My sister had applied for a position at our company. I opened her resume. It was well put together, I'll give her that. Her experience listed a few short-term jobs, some internships, and a marketing certification she must have done recently. But the section that caught my attention was the cover letter. She wrote, "After experiencing personal and financial setbacks, I'm committed to rebuilding my career. I'm passionate about branding and eager to prove myself if given the chance." I sat back in my chair, stunned. My sister, who once laughed at me for being boring, who once spent my money on a date and told me I didn't deserve nice things, was now applying to work under my leadership. I asked my assistant to quietly run a background check. Not for revenge, but because I needed context. The next day I got the full story. Her boyfriend, the one she sacrificed our family reunion for, had dumped her 6 months ago. He left her in debt, used her credit cards, and ghosted her completely. Mom and Dad? Things weren't any better for them. Turns out, Dad's small business failed during the last market dip, and Mom had taken a loan she couldn't repay. Their house was under threat, and my sister, once the golden child, was now jobless and desperate. I couldn't lie. Seeing her name, reading her words, learning the truth, it brought a wave of emotions. Some pain, some bitterness, but mostly a strange sense of closure. Life had come full circle in a way I never expected. Years ago I stood outside a restaurant alone, abandoned by people who thought I didn't matter. No. I was sitting in a glass office, holding the resume of the very person who once laughed at my dreams. The choice was mine now. And this time no one could laugh me out of the room. The day of the interview arrived, and as the time drew closer, I could feel my heart racing in anticipation. Not because I was nervous, but because this moment was about to be the closure I never knew I needed. I sat at my desk, reviewing the notes I had made about the applicants. My sister's resume sat in front of me, and as I prepared, I couldn't help but wonder how this moment would play out. She had no idea I was the one she was about to meet. When the door opened, she walked in confidently at first, her head held high, her fingers neatly tucked in front of her as though she was well prepared. But then when her eyes met mine, all the confidence drained out of her face in an instant. It was like time stopped for a moment. The color drained from her cheeks. Her mouth parted, but no words came out at first. She was frozen, staring at me in shock. I could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes. She knew it was me, the sister she once looked down on, the one she had humiliated, the one who had always been second best in her eyes. But now I was sitting behind the desk. I was in control. Kept my face calm, professional. I didn't let the years of hurt show. I wasn't there for revenge. I was there to run a company. I knew she'd try to act like nothing had ever happened, try to gloss over everything, so I leaned back in my chair and cleared my throat. "Please take a seat," I said, keeping my tone even. She blinked, then slowly sat down. There was an awkward silence as we both avoided looking at each other directly. She folded her hands neatly on her lap, trying to look calm and composed, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. The tables had turned and she knew it. "So," I started, pulling the resume closer to me, "you're applying for the position of a brand strategist here. Tell me, why do you think you'd be a good fit for the team?" She quickly straightened her posture, clearly trying to regain her composure. "Well, I believe I have a lot of experience in the field," she said, forcing a smile. "I've been through a lot recently, but I've learned to adapt quickly. I know how to handle challenges and I'm ready to move forward in my career. I'm highly motivated and eager to contribute to your company's growth." I nodded, listening carefully, but there was no warmth in my response. "That's great," I said, keeping it neutral. "But I have to be honest with you. We're looking for someone who values relationships. Relationships with coworkers, clients, and people in general. Someone who understands the importance of trust, loyalty, and respect." Her eyes darted to the floor for a brief moment, and I could see the realization hit her. She knew exactly what I was talking about. The family reunion. The betrayal. The day when she chose a date over family, when she laughed at my expense, when she abandoned me without a second thought. But she wasn't going to acknowledge it. She wasn't going to admit it. Instead, she cleared her throat and tried to play it cool. "I think I'm a good fit for this role. I've learned a lot from my past experiences and I'm confident I can bring something valuable to the table," she said quickly, trying to gloss over the tension. I didn't let her off the hook. "You see," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I know what happened on the day of the reunion. I remember clearly. How you didn't show up, how you and Mom thought it was okay to use my money for your day out while I sat there alone. How you didn't even apologize. You were never really interested in anything that didn't serve your immediate needs." Her face flushed with a mix of shame and defensiveness, but she stayed silent for a moment, clearly unsure how to respond. I could see the wheels turning in her head, but there was nothing she could say to erase that day. Nothing she could do to take it back. "You're not a good fit," I said finally, my tone softening just a little but still firm. "We need someone who values relationships. Not just work ones but real connections, people who understand the importance of loyalty, family, and respect. I'm sorry, but I don't think you're the right choice for this position." The room felt heavy as the words hung in the air. She opened her mouth but no words came out. Her face twisted with a mixture of embarrassment, anger, and disbelief. She stood up slowly, her hands gripping the edge of the chair as though she was trying to hold herself together. I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. With one last glance at me, she turned and walked out of the room, her footsteps echoing in the silence. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. I knew she wouldn't turn back. This wasn't about me getting back at her. It was about me being the person I had always needed to be. The one who was strong enough to say, "Enough is enough." And as the door clicked shut behind her, I leaned back in my chair, taking a deep breath. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and peace. This was it. The final chapter. The moment when everything came full circle. It was over. The silence that followed was more powerful than any confrontation I could have staged. I didn't need to scream or shout. I didn't need to call her out in front of the entire family or drag everything into the open. There was no need for public humiliation or retaliation. My revenge wasn't loud or messy. It wasn't about hurting her back or making her feel the same pain she had caused me. It was about something far more satisfying. It was about me. I stood there watching her walk out, and in that moment I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I had already won by making the decision to walk away, by building my own life, and by owning everything she thought I would never have. I had turned my pain into progress, my struggle into strength. And now I was in control. In the weeks that followed, I buried myself in my work. My company was growing, and my vision for the future had never been clearer. I focused on my employees, my clients, and my own happiness. The more I moved forward, the more I realized how truly irrelevant the past had become. I didn't need to prove anything to my family. I didn't need their approval or their recognition. I was building something on my own, something that they couldn't touch. Then one evening my phone buzzed with a message. I opened it and it was from my mother. "We're struggling. Your father's debts are piling up. We're in a really tough spot. Can you help us out?" I stared at the screen for a long time, the words sinking in. They had never asked me for help when I needed it most. They had abandoned me, used me, and discarded me when it suited them. Now, in their time of need, they wanted me to come to the rescue. They expected me to put my hard-earned success aside and fix their mess. But I didn't respond. I could have. I could have sent them money, even if it wasn't the amount they wanted. I could have tried to be the bigger person just like I always had. But I wasn't that person anymore. I had learned something important. No one had ever protected my peace except for me, and I wasn't about to let them disrupt it now. Over the next few days there were more calls, more messages. But I never replied. Each time the phone rang I felt the weight of every year, every insult, every abandonment. And each time I chose silence. I didn't need to explain myself. I didn't need to justify my actions. The people who mattered, the ones who had stood by me, already knew where I stood. And then it hit me, the final piece of clarity I needed. They had cancelled the reunion for her date. They had chosen her over me. They had let me down without a second thought, without even an apology. Today I had cancelled her future. Not with spite, not with malice, but with the quiet strength of someone who had finally chosen herself. They wanted my help, but they didn't deserve it. And I had learned that my silence was louder than any revenge I could have taken. Because the truth was, I had already built everything they had never believed I could. I didn't need them, and I didn't need to prove anything. The peace I had found was more than enough. As I sat in my office that evening, the weight lifted off my shoulders. The phone rang again, but I didn't pick it up. I didn't need to. The life I had created was mine, and that was all that mattered. They cancelled the reunion for her date, I thought to myself with a quiet smile. Today I cancelled her future for my peace.